It's Thursday, June 18th, 2026, and we are tracking a post-tropical cyclone dumping inches of rain in the southeast. Also, we have two separate tornado threats today. Now it's time for weather. Let's get right into it. First, let's start off by talking about post-tropical cyclone Arthur. Yesterday, it became the first named storm in the Atlantic hurricane season. It became Tropical Storm Arthur, with winds reaching up to 40 miles an hour and making landfall in Texas. This is where the storm is at right now. We can see much of the rain is currently in Mississippi and Alabama, with rainfall rates of up to 1, 2, maybe even 3 inches an hour. Moving through this hour by hour, this is where it will be this evening. Again, heavy rain throughout much of the southeast. Some places could get up to 8, even 10 more inches of rain before this moves through. Continuing through, we can see it is going to move through the states of Alabama, Georgia, and both of the Carolinas before it reaches the Atlantic Ocean, where the fate of the storm is still unknown, but anything could happen to it after it exits the land. As I was saying, after post-tropical cyclone Arthur does leave the U.S., there is a 10% chance of development in the next 7 days of Arthur becoming a new tropical storm. Again, this is a relatively low chance for now, but we'll see what happens when we get there. And now let's move on to the excessive rainfall outlook for the next few days for the southeast as post-tropical cyclone Arthur does continue to move through. Today we have a 4 out of 4 high risk for parts of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, with a moderate risk just around that, and 2 separate areas of a slight risk, one back into Texas and Oklahoma, and one for much of the southeast. Again, some places could get 6, maybe even 8 inches of rain in the next 24 hours. Taking a look at the map for Friday, we can see there's a small moderate risk for parts of Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia, with a very large slight risk, again stretching back to Texas and parts of Florida. Moving on to Saturday, we can see again much of the rain will be offshore by now, but there is still a slight risk of flash flooding for parts of Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia. Now let's move on to the severe weather outlook for the next few days. Today we have 2 separate slight risks of severe weather, one in the northeast in parts of New England, and one stretching from Maryland all the way down to Alabama and Mississippi. The main threats for today will be the tornado threat. There is a 5% chance in the interior northeast for parts of Vermont, New Hampshire, New York, and Massachusetts. And down here in the southeast, there is a 5% chance for parts of Florida, Mississippi, and Alabama, with a large 5% chance stretching all the way up to North Carolina. Taking a look at the wind threat, 2 separate areas of a 15% chance of damaging winds. Again, one back here in the northeast and one in the mid-Atlantic and southeast states from Delaware all the way down to Georgia. And there will not be much of a hail threat today, as these storms won't have the correct ingredients to create damaging hail. This is the severe weather outlook for Friday, June 19th. There are 3 separate marginal risks of severe weather, one in the Great Plains, one in the Great Lakes region, and one stretching from Texas all the way up to North Carolina, making a smiley face shape. For the tornado threat, there is a 2% tornado risk for parts of the Carolinas, and a 5% wind risk for all of these marginal areas, with a 5% hail risk for the areas in the Great Lakes and the Great Plains. And moving on to Saturday, June 20th, we now have a slight risk of severe weather for parts of Nebraska, Colorado, and Kansas, with a marginal risk stretching from Wyoming all the way back to Missouri. A few tornadoes will be possible, along with damaging winds and large hail. Thank you for watching until the end of the video. If you enjoyed this content, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And if you live in any of the severe weather zones or in the southeast, be sure to stay safe. And I'll see you all next time.